Welcome to the State of the Pork Industry Report brought to you by Neogen. Neogen is committed to being your trusted partner in the swine industry, delivering optimized solutions and technology for more than 20 years. With a dedicated network of scientists and technical experts in the field, Neogen's goal is to meet the needs of swine producers. To learn more, visit neogen.com or contact your Neogen representative. My name is Jennifer Shike, and I serve as the editor and brand leader for Farm Journal's Pork. Every day, I have the privilege of covering pork industry issues and news, as well as telling stories of the people in our industry and exploring topics to help the industry grow. I'm so excited to take a look at the second quarter of 2025 through the lens of our experts, Dr. Kara Hayden, Adam Manigers, Randy Keeker, and Brad Eckberg. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Good to be here.
Pleasure.
Yep, thank you.
So, I love to kind of kick this off by knowing a little bit about what's going on with you, because I don't get to see you guys very often in person, and this is kind of as good as it gets for some of us. So tell me, what are some of the things that you guys have been up to this summer? Any exciting things going on in your part of the world? Randy, do you want to start?
Sure. This week I was actually in Chicago for Pork Leadership Institute, and we got some training and education on pork retail merchandising and some stuff with marketing with CIH. So that was this last week. And then next week, the family and I are going to Shawnee National Forest and gonna check that place out. Haven't been there yet.
Ooh, fun. I've not been, but I've heard it's so beautiful.
I'm just hoping it's not hot.
Well, I don't know if I can promise that you're gonna see that.
Probably not.
How about you, Adam?
Been pretty boring all summer to this point. Just the baby's up, mobile, crawling around, so chasing him. But the first 3 weeks in August, my wife and I are going to head over to Switzerland. Her sister's getting married, and then we're going to head over to Scotland for a few days and spend some time with people that we've gotten dogs from. So vacation to start here real soon. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous about that. That sounds amazing. Kara and I want to go. I can tell she's into.
Yeah,
Brad, what about you?
Relatively uneventful on a big scale, but a couple highlights. Obviously, World Pork Expo was great. Visited MPIC last year. It's probably like my 15th year doing MPIC last week, I should say. That's always fun, bring the family out, and a lot of water activities and everything. And then done a lot of camping, especially in northern Minnesota, so that's always a lot of fun. And then I guess the big project this summer has been we redid our backyard. So all new landscaping, and turned the sprinkler on quite a bit, and watching my grass grow, I guess, is entertainment for the Eckberg household. So pretty fun stuff.
I could use a little assistance over in southwest of Champaign if you are mobile and go on the road with any of that. This is the time of the year that I think, wow, you can tell where the shikes spend their time, and it's not on the yard. So
I'm way too paranoid over my grass, and I'm not there with the old scissors cutting my grass, but it has to be really nice.
Well, that's awesome. I'm impressed. How about you, Kara?
I mean, we're just done with ball season, so I've got 3 kids playing ball this year, so that's good to kind of have that over and feel like we've got a little bit of time left in the summer. We always have summer interns, so holler to Emma and Rachel. Man, we've had such a great summer working with them. I'm really excited about their projects. And then when this call is done, I am headed to Colorado on family vacation, so we're meeting some family out in Colorado, and it should be a really good time, although I think it's going to be very hot. So we'll see how that goes.
I feel like hot is a theme we have going here. I just got done with county fair yesterday, so if I look a little sleepy, it's because it was a really long, hot day. And it's challenging, I think, to keep all the animals cool. We have just animals in 2 barns. We had pigs and lambs, and my youngest had her first sheep showing experience yesterday. The sheep did not get loose, and she actually won her little junior showmanship and did a pretty good job. And I just looked at my husband and I said, oh dear, I think this is gonna just keep rolling, because she really, really enjoyed showing her little lamb this year, and my son won master showmanship, so he gets to go represent our county at our state contest, and that's been one of his goals this summer. So it was a good day, but by the time it was done, we were all so hot. As my son calls it, sometimes it's a 3 outfit kind of a day because you've sweat through three different pairs of clothes. So that was us, and I think about that a lot because, you know, at our house, that's just a topic that we're always talking about. Like, are we keeping the animals cool? How do we best care for them and keep them growing and keep them, as, productive as they can be for what we're trying to do? And I know that's the same challenge that all of our pork producers are facing right now with these stretch, of super, super hot, and super high heat indexes throughout really, the whole country. And so, I was curious, Adam, what are some of the challenges that heat brings, particularly to you on the sow farm? What are some of the things that you're doing to help the sows right now?
Yeah, it's definitely not a fun time in the barns, and it's really tough on the pigs, really tough on the people, and getting hot during the day is one thing, but where the girls don't get a break when it gets night out, when it stays hot and humid all through the night, there's no break. That's definitely the worst time. But some of the things that we're doing for the people and the pigs, you guys all remember the little popsicles that $3 or $4 for like a roll of 100 different colors. We get those into the farms for the people. Just make sure that we're staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water, and have some popsicles or get some Gatorade in there for them to drink, and just keep a close eye on everybody. And as for the pigs, it's definitely soak down the heavy bred sows, and try to get them up and let that heat get away from them. In stalled barns, they're belly to belly, and the heat cannot escape. So just standing those up, letting that heat get away from them really helps. And doing late afternoon or evening checks, having some people go back into the farms and just trying to get cooled off sows that are getting warm, or some of the things that we're doing. And then as far as movements, we try to move our heavy bred animals first thing in the morning. Take our time, don't push them too hard, but really just slow down, watch the animal as close as watching the teammates, and just really, it's unfortunate the pigs aren't able to sweat, but we just sweat through it and do the best that we can.
Cool. Yeah. Randy, how about you on the finishing side? What are some of the things that you're having to change what you do or alter your day-to-day routine to keep those pigs cool?
Yeah, we try to just we take advantage of those little bit cooler temperatures in the early mornings by trying to get our heavy work, or whether we got especially with the market hogs, if we got to mark pigs, we try to get there early in the morning. And when you get them up, get them marked, and then just kind of let them rest for the rest of the day. You got to be strategic, and when you turn the misters on, especially with market loads, making sure you're not washing those marks off. But checking your misters, make sure your tips are working, make sure all your fans are working. You've got extra belts on hand if you have a fan go down. And then when it comes considerations for marketing, we look at moving more loads to the back end of the schedule, because the weights just aren't going to be there. These animals are not eating like they were when the temperatures were cooler. So we're definitely seeing a dip in market weights. So we adjust our marketing projections and maybe take less out in the very beginning, give them a little bit more space and a little bit more time to eat. It makes it a little harder on the employees when you go to dump the barn, you have an increased number of dump loads, but that takes gets us the best performance or the best amount of pounds out of that facility. So that's what we work on.
From a veterinarian perspective, what are some of the things that producers can do in general to help pigs stay healthy? Are pigs more at risk during this time of the year from a disease standpoint or from certain diseases? I guess, what are some of those proactive things that producers can be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for people to keep in mind that heat stress is a general stressor that can set off other disease issues, but it's also a very specific stressor on the gut. And so we get issues with the gap junctions that form in the gut, and we're more, pigs are more likely to kind of absorb some of these pathogens and have some of these issues. And so, I mean, when it gets really hot like this, everyone should be kind of on their toes looking for hemolytic E. coli, ileitis, some of these gut pathogens that absolutely love to take advantage of that gut. And so we've had some hot days here that have triggered some really nasty hemolytic E. coli. And so that's just something to really be watching for. If you're seeing those sunken eyes, kind of pigs turning purple, sudden deaths, we need to be on top of that right away. And then we just need to be doing the best we can to try to get those pigs to eat regularly throughout the day. So not only do we have that kind of major stress on the gut itself, but then we get this gorging at night, not eating during the day, not getting up. And so really this idea of getting animals up and trying to get them into regular eating patterns, even when it's hot, I think can help that gut so that we're not adding additional stress to the gut. But things like transport has already been talked about, but I mean, we're doing some trials on wean pig transport, and man, very small differences in square footage have a major impact on the temperature, humidity experience of the pig during trucking. And so we just need to take that really seriously and understand we can really ruin pigs during trucking in the summer months if we're not really careful from a health standpoint, and then just from a heat stress standpoint as well.
Are you doing anything? Are you seeing much from a nutrition side of altering diets? Is there anything that you guys are doing nutrition wise to help with heat stress?
I mean, I think probably industry standard would be to be feeding diets that are a little bit higher in fat during the summer, knowing that we're going to see some reduced intakes. And so Randy already talked about, right, we're not going to get the weights we want. And so having a diet that's got a little bit more oomph to it so that every bite matters to that animal. I think that's a big deal. I think we've heard of some lactation, kind of trying to increase some goodies in lactation feed over the summer months as well for our sows.
Yeah. Brad, how is it impacting the numbers? What are some of the trends that you might be seeing from a production standpoint? And are there any, warning signs or triggers that producers should be looking for when they're studying their numbers over the summer months?
Yeah, definitely. Health plays a very big role in health and performance. So let's kind of break it down into a couple of different areas, starting in the sow farm area. Adam did a great job talking about, handling sows, especially those ones that are due to farrow. But you'll definitely see in the trends from a month over month perspective, if you will, July, August, from a sow mortality. Mortality will rise a little bit, usually in the fall, winter, early in the calendar year, you'll see the spike up as well and die down there in that Q1, Q2 timeframe. But and that's usually due to health, right? PRRS usually being the biggest impact. But during that July, August timeframe, you'll see mortality for sows usually go up a couple percentage, generally speaking, for sow farms. And when you kind of dive a little bit deeper into the reasons why, prolapses and heat stress would be the two main key reasons why sows are dying, unfortunately. And a lot of those are happening right around that due to farrow timeframe. You'll see farrowing rates dip, usually a couple percent, 2 to 6%, depending on the farm and whatnot. Kind of goes back a little bit into preparing for that heat with farrowing rate dips to plan for that, ahead of time, overbreeding a little bit just to offset that loss in farrowing productivity. Kind of switching over a little bit to the grow finish side. Randy and Dr. Hayden already talked a little bit about the impact on market weights, but just kind of put some numbers to it. We're right around that 282, 283 average live weight. You'll see the dip kind of in that July, August, September time frame of market weights being in that 275, 277 live weight, from an average perspective. So definitely a hit there from a weight perspective. And then you'll see kind of, even though the weights are lower, and Randy said, pigs are going to need to stay on feed a little bit more. We're seeing pigs on feed about, 1 to 2 weeks more on feed, even though we've got that, 8 to 10 pound lighter market weight. And then just and obviously that means lower feed conversion or higher feed conversion, right? Because they're not growing as well, because we've got a lower average daily gain, usually around a 10th average daily gain for finish wean to finish groups that are mainly growing / finishing up in that summer time frame. And then kind of wrapping it up to the transportation, like Dr. Hayden said, typically from a dead on arrival standpoint, we're as far as an industry around 0.25% mortality. Kind of look at that, for a 2,400 head barn, that's 6 pigs per barn for a 2,400 head barn. And then during that summer months, that July, August timeframe, again, we're seeing dead on arrivals at that packer around that 0.35. So, and that for a 2,400 head barn, that 10th of a DOA percentage is another 2 pigs. So, bottom line, just kind of monitoring your trends, right? Using your record keeping system to look at outliers, monitoring, saying, hey, do we have some issues? We've got a lot of due to farrows. Do we need to check those sows? Do we need to adjust our management, animal husbandry skills, during those summer months? So.
Awesome. Well, I kind of want to transition a little bit into labor, because I do think about how challenging these high temperatures can be. I mean, this is when working in barns cannot look as glamorous as some of the indoor jobs, right? And so I know, one of the topics that Randy, you had brought up is that this is also something to think about with your team, is that overtime pay and some of the extra hours that people, maybe there's some extra hours they're having to work because we're needing to go back into the barns at night or go check on animals at different times of the day. And so you had brought that as something that's on your mind right now because of some of our labor and work pool challenges. So what do you guys do when it comes to that? And why are you thinking about that so much?
Yeah, well, in our organization, we're a co-op, and we've got different, not just livestock. We've got agronomy, we've got energy, we've got administrative staff support, and we instituted a policy back when around COVID time frame where we were having a hard time getting employees. So we've always had an overtime policy, but we actually added to it, and we added double time for Sundays. And it's been a useful tool for us. It's helped us attract more candidates, and I think it's helped us keep candidates. And for me personally, as I've gone through the TN process, I've had to get a couple new ones in, and as I develop job descriptions and offer letters, and the feedback that I'm getting from the lawyers or the recruiters for the TNs is that the ability to pay overtime and actually offer overtime hours is pretty attractive to a lot of the candidates that we get. I wouldn't say we're at the highest level for the initial starting offer, but when we put down that we all average 45 to 50 hours a week, and we pay that overtime, that's been able to, from the perspective of the recruiters, they say that's very helpful for us to be able to get really good candidates. And I hear the same thing through our HR department, that they feel they've gotten better candidates and better success on the recruiting trail by letting people know that we do offer the overtime and we do have the hours available for that. So it's been good for us. And the flip side of it is we got to make sure we manage it so we don't have too much overtime. We have certain budgets and certain thresholds we need to be under. We may still make sure we're productive, but a happy worker that's getting overtime is been really beneficial for us.
Sure, absolutely. Well, and Adam, you had talked about just that employees' well-being too in the barns during this time when the temperatures are so high. What are some things that you guys are doing to accommodate their well-being?
Yeah, and like I said, providing Gatorade packs, oranges or fruit, and the popsicles. Just then in the morning meetings, just talking through, hey, it's going to be hot today. You guys watch each other, take care of each other. Just constant reminders that they are very important for us as well. And we all have a job to do, and there's a lot of things that need to be done, but just taking that extra time and care and letting the employees know that they're super important to us as well. I really think that does go a long way with them.
Yeah, I think that the care that our industry has and that mutual respect for everybody and the role that they play is one of the things that makes our industry so special. And I think the majority of the barns, that's the story that we need to tell a little bit more. And one of the things I've had the opportunity to do this summer is be a part of some really cool conversations about finding and recruiting that next generation to come back to the swine industry, whether that's working in barns or taking over leadership roles on farms. I visited with Keystone Cooperative this summer, and they were talking about their desire to really reach out to kids who have an interest in showing pigs because they've proven that they have some stockmanship skills and are developing and learning those. Although it's maybe in a different environment, it still is caring for an animal and providing for the animal's welfare. And it's also that interest in that desire. And they've had a ton of success, and it was just neat to hear the stories of how they've connected with that audience. They've invested in opportunities for those kids, and now they're seeing that come back to fruition as those kids come to work for them. And they want to help youth realize that, hey, if you like pigs, there's opportunities to come back and be a part of our industry when you're done showing pigs. You don't have to be done with the pork industry when you're done showing pigs in 4-H. And I think helping young people see that there's a pathway is really important. And they're even creating some opportunities for kids who maybe they aren't interested in going to college, but they would like to find a way to get into the industry. And so they're creating some really neat pathways that I think our industry needs to do more of. Brad, from your perspective, kind of getting to have a lens into lots of different operations, do you think that we're doing enough as an industry to recruit the next generation, and why or why not?
Yeah, I mean, let's look at from a positive standpoint. If I could look at that, I mean, like back in my day, like having a cell phone, if we had a cell phone, right, in the early 2000s, having it in a sow farm, absolutely no, right? So if I need to communicate, I got to use a phone, barely had a computer. If I needed to go use something, if I was going to use a computer, it was going to be obviously for data entry. But the advancements of technology in a sow farm or even in a grow finish, I think is something that is more relatable. Trying to make the life a little bit easier for that caretaker with the sensors. The pig counting technology that's out there. The ability to communicate. If I can't speak Spanish and I've got a Spanish colleague, be able to use an app, whether it's a WhatsApp or whatnot, to be able to communicate to them in their language, I think is absolutely awesome. Helps kind of break down that barrier a little bit. And I guess when I look at from like an overall perspective, like what could we do better? I think a little bit what you were saying a little bit ago, Jennifer, on when you're done showing, there's other in 4-H and FFA, there's other opportunities in the pig industry, and I think that's really very important on the commercial side, if you will, because I mean, I started a sow farm, worked 8 years at a sow farm, never would have thought that, all of the different opportunities that are out there, whether you're an analytical person like myself, I love pigs, I love numbers, so there's opportunities in a software company, or there's opportunities to work with a company, that maybe you've got that experience with pigs and now you love numbers and or if, there's other opportunities for advancements within the sow farm or even within the company. I think, the younger generation, God bless them. I mean, it's I want to make as much money, right, as fast as I absolutely can, and I want to make decisions, right? You need to put that time and that hard work in, but to be able to express and really be able to highlight the opportunities that are out there in the industry, that you don't necessarily have to, sleeve sows every day the rest of your life or breed animals for the rest of your life. You don't need to market pigs and load out pigs all the time. There's opportunities out there if you want it, and it's endless. It's just, what do you want to do? And there's opportunities. Go take it.
I think having those conversations, it's just so important, and I don't think we can do it enough. I think to your point, I agree with you. I think we are doing so many things now, and it's so much better than it was when we were looking at jobs. But I still think we can't talk about it enough. And Kara, I know that, the internship program is really special to you. And I always love getting to hear about, your interns or meet them when you take them to World Pork Expo or different events. Talk to me about, like, what do you think from your perspective? And we've talked about this a little bit from what's the future of of swine veterinarians going to be like? But tell me what you see about our industry.
Yeah, I mean, specifically from a veterinary standpoint, I think we're in a tough spot just because, we're competing with small animal where you're home every night, you can get paid pretty good. There's kind of the small animal medicine is kind of a little bit ahead of us, and it's really figured out not figured it out, but they've done a lot of work on work-life balance and how to have women in the field. And we're a little bit behind, I think, as a swine industry in really recruiting and doing the right thing and working on work-life balance and reducing travel. And there's so many opportunities there, I think, where we could be doing better, trying to really try to recruit those Gen Zers. But I mean, absolutely for us, it's internships, right? If we can get them into being a swine veterinarian, like people can get really hooked on it because it's fun and it's exciting and we're always chasing new things. And there's challenges around population medicine that are just more dynamic and more interesting than individual animal medicine. And so I just think as much as we can get people boots in the ground into these pig barns working with pigs, that's going to be really how we get people into this industry and get excited. We need to make some fundamental changes to the industry as well. But man, internships, spending time with veterinarians and with producers is a big deal for recruiting people.
Yeah, I agree. I've listened to so many people in our industry share how they got into this industry because somebody took the time to invite them in, have them ride along, go with them to see what they were doing. And so I'm a huge proponent for trying to provide those internship and experiential learning opportunities. And Randy, you were sharing that Illinois Pork is working on an exciting new program with local colleges that would help put young people into production roles. So can you share a little bit about that?
You bet. Well, there's not a lot of information out yet, but it was funny. Back in April, I was sitting talking with Jennifer Tyree, the executive director, and my stepdaughter was going through an apprenticeship program for the trades at a local college. And I said, well, that's something that I think the pork industry would look into, and she ran with it. And so she's found 5 community colleges in Illinois, and we've took some job descriptions from multiple different producers and kind of commingle them together and say, what should this look like for somebody that would do an apprenticeship program that could step right into a production facility. So typically you find, somebody that does an animal science degree at Iowa State or Indiana or Minnesota or whatever, when they're done, they don't typically want to go, work in a sow farm or in a, wean to finish facility right out of college. They want to take that next step, whether it's a field advisor or some type of management role. But so this is designed as like a 1-year program to teach the basics of, processing piglets, checking sows, doing day 1 care, breeding AI, working in wean to finish facilities, identifying, market weight pigs, and just the basics and the fundamentals, and then allowing that certification to help place them. And I'm not sure how that part's going to work yet. We're not that far down the road with it, but how can we place them with, producers in Illinois or even other states that, okay, this person has went through this 1-year-long program and has basically got some on the farm training, or, I think there's going to be a little bit of that, but classroom education, that they're stepping into the facility with a little bit of knowledge of what they're getting into. So hopefully that gets, people see that on their curriculum when they're going to school and they start asking questions and they learn about it. And I hope that opens the floodgates to a whole new group of people that we can pull from, that we can, a labor pool that we can and help staff these farms and keep things moving in the right direction.
Yeah, just if I could, Jennifer, real quick. I mean, Minnesota Pork just came out with a program. They started one here. It's an 18-month program. Just started, like I said, there's I believe a dozen different young leadership individuals within the state of Minnesota that were chosen, and they're just they're getting together, periodically and getting together to improve. Obviously, they're networking, advocating for the pork industry, and from a leadership standpoint, I think it's just a great program to have. And I think the more and more we do to grow all aspects of individuals within our industry is just awesome.
Yeah. And I do love that, working and partnering with those community colleges, because I think sometimes there are opportunities there that some of those kids don't always get to see at kind of that higher state level, if that makes sense. So I love how each of those places gives us an opportunity to network out and to reach more people. And so I love seeing whether it's at, through the National Junior Swine Association and Kids Who Show Pigs, whether it's through the community colleges and reaching out to kids who maybe are interested in working with animals, to the state organizations who kind of even reach another group. I think all those different angles are really important, because there's opportunities all over. But again, we're getting more generations removed from the farm, so they're not able to see what that's like. And so I think those experiential learning programs are so valuable, so they can get in the barns, because even our kids will say, like, we want to work in the swine industry, but they've never really had the opportunity to be in very many big commercial barn settings, because that's just hard to do, right? Logistically challenging. So kudos for all of those ideas. I mean, speaking of big barns, I didn't really want to bring this word up, but I feel like we've got to, what's the latest on PRRS? I feel like World Pork Expo was 3 years ago, but it was really it wasn't even 3 months ago. So it wasn't very long ago where we were looking at, wow, PRRS should be in a better place right now, and it's not. And it doesn't look like it's going to be a very good summer. And I don't know that it has been a great summer. So, Kara, give us an update on what you're seeing in barns with PRRS right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like a couple years ago, I feel like I felt like a good vet every summer, and then every winter I felt like a terrible vet. And that was because of PRRS and influenza. It seems like they are just not seasonal anymore in the same way. And so, I mean, I just think all of us swine vets feel like this has been a really, really frustrating summer. And a lot of that, I think, is just these strains are different than strains we've seen in the past. I mean, Christine Manquist, Wiggum, Daniel and Harris, they've both come out with some papers looking at kind of extended shedding periods, animals that quit shedding and then start shedding again. We've got a summer intern project right now where we're looking at gilt shedding, and we're just really frustrated with the amount of time that some of these gilts are shedding after intentional exposure during a closure. And so, yeah, PRRS is a very frustrating topic right now, I think, for swine vets and for the industry in general.
And part of that, Carrie, is you veterinarians have done your jobs too well, and we've eliminated all the little weak viruses out there. So I mean, viruses, they adapt and they survive. So as we continue to eliminate the little softies out there, they become a lot more tougher and a lot more diligent, and you definitely feel the effects a lot more when they come in now. So we're kind of doing it to ourselves in a sense, a little bit.
I agree. Nature finds a way, right?
Yeah.
So we put in filters, we do all sorts of stuff, and it's desperate to get into our pigs. So
that's what's crazy to me, is how many measures and layers have been in place to try to keep it out, and how it just keeps, finding ways in. Are anybody doing anything different in the barns, or any changes in biosecurity because of this? Or
we're just trying to reinforce our practices and making sure that we're doing things that we've said we were going to do. And I think you get to certain stages of production on the wean to finish side, and we think, well, the pigs are bigger, they're healthier, and it's maybe not as important. And then you're a week away from topping the site out, and you bring PRRS in, and you can't medicate those pigs, and then it's a mess. So just being diligent every day, trying to, I think the one area that we are a little lackadaisical is maybe a little bit with supplies and not disinfecting those boxes, and making sure that, at least on the wean to finish side, it's always been something that I think it could be paid a little bit higher attention to.
Oh yeah, I think on the grow finish side, there's so much low hanging fruit, right? Like these I mean, Adam's skin is raw from showering. I've showered like 14 times this week, and then we go in and out of grow finish barns in a very different way. Like that, we just have very different standards from grow finish. But the reality is there's PRRS all over the place in grow finish. So the more we hang ropes, the more we find it. So.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, and Randy, very, very good point there, that just execute the basics at a high level. That has been a big opportunity for our set of sow farms. And, knock on wood, this summer has been relatively nice to us, but not nice to a lot of our colleagues out there in the industry. But just consistent executing the basic protocols at a high level definitely is very, very important in all aspects, from employee entry, and then mortality removal. That is just a big opportunity for something to come in, as we're coming in and out of composts, and but a high level of execution that definitely will help us. Sometimes we overthink the basics, and the humans are really good at making things more complicated than we need to make them. So just taking a step back and just observing processes, and you will pick up on those things that are just a slight change can make a huge difference to a farm.
Yep.
I wonder how much we actually do to ourselves, right? I mean, we talk about biosecurity and it's us, and we know that PRRS can travel, right? I mean, PED, right, needs to be transported from one object to another to get to the pigs. But I wonder, from a PRRS standpoint, how much do we actually do to ourselves of all these breaks? I mean, how often are we shooting ourselves in the foot and having to deal with issues that unfortunately could be, fixed?
My guess is 9 times out of 10.
When you see the same virus being moved around to multiple locations, then you really got to look inward and go, okay, how are we moving this virus around? But unfortunately, the last couple of years, a lot of the breaks have been different viruses, or just a slight change to it. So it's even more frustrating, because it's similar to this farm that's 10 miles away, but it's 2 or 3 points different. And does it mutate that quick, Kara, from one barn to the other 10 miles down the road? Or but if it's different viruses, it would make you feel a little better that it's not the same. We're not moving it if it's a different virus.
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole conversation highlights, like, we've had PRRS in the United States for a long time, and we still know very little about this virus. And so, I mean, doing some more of this kind of whole genome sequencing instead of just OR5, I think, is really important. Focusing research dollars on understanding what part of the immune system responds. There's other tools out there, right? I've heard some stuff about some different tools coming to the market potentially to really help us with this virus. And man, we need it. We need research. We need answers. We're certainly not at the point where we have good, we know exactly what to do as an industry yet to get rid of this. I think there's appetite to eliminate, for sure. And so we just need a couple more tools in our tool belt.
What's more complicated, Adam? PRRS or teenage daughters?
Oh, teenage daughters all the way. Yeah. PRRS is painful for 6 or 8 months. I mean, teenage daughters are teenagers for 9 years. So
Teenage boys aren't always easy either. I'm just gonna say. They all I just think, let's say, teenagers are just teenagers.
Yeah.
Well, I want to shift just a little bit before this gets out of hand to hog prices, because things are better than they were, right? And so how is that impacting some of the decisions that you guys are making on the farm, Randy, from a management and a growth standpoint?
It's not really adjusting what we're doing. We don't own the pigs that we raise, so we're kind of dictated by the owners of what we need to do. But I will say, from that standpoint, we're seeing a little bit more leeway from the pig producers or pig owners in what they're paying for space and facilities. So we're looking at trying to add a few spaces in our area, and we're getting rumblings in the countryside that prices might be into the mid 40s. It still doesn't make up for the fact it takes about $50 to $52 to make a new wean to finish facility cash flow. But traditionally, for the last 10 years or 20 years, you're in that 38 to 42 range. We've got some guys that we're hearing are getting offers into the mid 40s, maybe some incentive packages that can get you a little bit higher. So that would be my take, is where I think the most impact is having right now on the prices. I will say also, I think you're seeing pig owners a little more willing to try different medications or spend money on medications and maybe run some longer duration pulses to clean up any respiratory issues, because they have a little bit more cushion to work with than what they did in the past. And then, the technology, all that technology that's out there, it all costs money. And so I'm starting to hear a little bit more rumblings of, hey, we're willing to invest or look into something like this, whether it's like Brad mentioned earlier, the cameras for counting pigs. And one challenge before was the cost of something, and then you kind of sit back and you evaluate it and say, well, if I can save this much time with an employee where he doesn't have to count all these pigs, and I can have better inventory numbers, then I'm willing to spend some money on the technology of a pig counting camera. I think if the prices continue like I think they say they're going to, in all the way through 2026, I think we're going to see some interesting things, either with AI or cameras evaluating market weights on pigs and stuff like that. It'll be an exciting rest of 25 and into 26 to see what new things pop up, for sure.
Yeah, I get pretty excited about seeing that technology evolve. I mean, we've been hearing about it and seeing the advances, but gosh, like in such difficult times for producers, that I don't it's hard to justify. So it's fun to maybe see them have a little more opportunity to put that to work. Adam, what are you seeing from breeding decisions? What you're experiencing on the sow farm side of things?
When the markets are really strong like this, it's more fun to sit down with the farrowing team and the gestation team, where you can really tie real dollars back to it that are actually positive dollars. So, every pig is important and every pig counts every time. But when we can start rolling this back and tying it to production bonuses that are available, for the teams, and tying that dollars right back to it, it really does catch fire. It helps greatly to let teams know that their efforts are definitely rewarded. The possibility is there, and then the total economics for the company, when the company is doing well, then we do get we get to fix a few more things, or we get new power washers, or we get to spend some capital on some of those other things. So as long as the markets stay strong, it is a fun and exciting time to explain that all the way down to slat level in the barn.
Yep. Well, one of my favorite things to do is to really just hear some of your good ideas, tips, things you've been doing. And so as you guys look back at the second quarter, or kind of especially this beginning here of summer, what are some of something you've done, something you've heard about that you think might be helpful to another producer out there to maybe rethink how they do something on their operation? So any great ideas or little tidbits you might want to share today? And I don't know, whoever wants to go first, don't want to put anybody on the spot, but always value your ideas.
For the sow farms, we've done several things. We had a baseball game here that we took everybody to, for just an employee engagement. That was great. That was fun. I've taken my grill in the back of the truck and cooked lunch for a couple of the farms that requested that. But ideas to make things fun in the barn is really, don't assume that anybody understands everything all the way through. Start all the way back at the beginning. Listen to the team when we're explaining why we want to do something a certain way, or why we want to do that. And just, we've all been in barns for 20 plus years, and we forget what it's like to be, a newer person back in there. So integrate that person all the way back to the beginning with the whole team. Reminders are always good for everybody, and just have fun with it. Don't forget to have fun with it.
I think I'd like to be on your team. You get popsicles, and you cook out for them, and you have fun. You guys do a lot of fun things, and kudos to you for investing in, creating that team.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it's just the culture is just really blossoming, and it's just fun to be a part of that. Yep.
And it's intentional. It's not just happening by chance. You guys are really smart.
Yeah.
That's cool. Randy, how about you?
I don't have as cool of a story as that, but I guess like I talked a little bit earlier about looking for potentially more space and getting more involved in building design and construction and coming up with some specs. I've talked with a couple people and a couple producers and builders, and one thing that I've learned is there's a lot more wean to finish barns being built without pit fans, solid wall sides, and instead of curtain sided, and then putting the pit fans up on the walls. So that's a different philosophy, kind of scary if you have a power outage and you're relying a lot on that generator, but just the ability to ventilate those a little bit better and a little bit different. So I'm going to try to see if I can find an open house or a builder that's built one of those recently to kind of take a look at that as we evaluate different things going into 2026 and look at some different designs and see what's out there.
Definitely a topic I've been excited to explore too. I've had some good interviews with people. I can't share it all yet, but I'm excited to dig into that a little more this fall because it's just nice to hear people thinking about investing and growing in different ways. And there's ways to do it smart, I think. So that's cool.
Yep.
Brad, you got any ideas, any tips or tidbits that you might share?
Well, I mean, just echoing the markets a little bit and just kind of what I've seen, what I've been hearing, from working with different companies is, I'm horrible with analogies, but why not give it another try is, we've just got done with a couple years of really, really bad financial years, and you get kicked down and then you throw bad health in those 2 years and just feels really demoralizing. And then, Q1 of this year, even maybe some of Q4 of last year, it's like, okay, the sun's coming out, the clouds are going away, the rain bye-bye, and now we're going to enjoy pig production, right? Again, from all levels. And obviously we've got the health issue with PRRS and some PD popping up from time to time, but there's positivity around the labor force. That's a very big positive. But really, I mean, just what I'm kind of like hearing and seeing is, we just came out of a tough 2 years. We're starting to get some more positive in the black, if you will, that, okay, let's not let our foot off the gas pedal. Let's continue to improve. How can we improve? Obviously from a technology standpoint, we talk about pig counters, right? Improving our efficiencies, right? With that, with the ability for visibility, what's going on out there in the barn with barn controllers. And, historically the pig industry is very slow at adoption with technology. But I think that, a lot of these controllers and sensors have been kind of, vetted out a little bit, right? Okay, I'll throw a couple in here and there. And then how does all the information come together? That's the fun part about the software and hardware sides working together. But really just, let's not let our foot off the gas pedal. Let's continue to improve, because unfortunately, things come around again and we're going to have some tough years, right? So let's make sure that while we're doing well financially, whatnot, that when the times are poor again, that we're more prepared and that we're able to adapt to changes and have that visibility and traceability.
Yeah. Excellent points. And last but not least, before you head off on vacation, Kara, what advice do you have or tips?
Well, I feel like I'm going to channel Brad today because I'm going to talk about data.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, so I've been really focused on, I just feel like the industry, we do such a good job tracking average daily gain, feed conversion, percent tops. Like we've got so much information. One thing that we kind of failed to track, I think, is more things along the lines of welfare metrics. So like outcomes for animals. So how much lameness do we have in the barn? How many animals are we treating? What are the outcomes of that? Farrowing complications. What are the outcomes? Looking at treatment success. And so that's been something I've been really focused on the last couple months, running reports. And I just think that we've found so much information in that. And so even taking PRRS breaks, and going, okay, is it even worth treating individual animals during a PRRS break? And so we actually treated animals and then looked at outcomes 10 weeks before the PRRS break and 10 weeks after the PRRS break. And it turns out that, yes, absolutely, it is worth it. So we can see really good treatment success rates in the midst of a really nasty PRRS break. And so I just think that's been really helpful information. And we've learned during at least one particular PRRS break, it caused a lot of lameness. And so we're tracking these lameness metrics and how many animals we're treating for lameness and how many treatment days it requires to get animals better, and saw that PRRS massively increased both lameness and treatment days. And so that's something now we can kind of warn our teams, hey, we're seeing this new thing, but don't worry. We've run the numbers. It is worth treating these animals when you find them. We're doing things like putting feed medication in, and then really looking at some of these specific metrics around animal welfare to see if we can impact it. And so I've been really focused on that. I think as an industry, that's some data that we've kind of neglected. That's not hard for us to grab up and start really being able to utilize to make some better decisions. So that's been on my mind. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Yeah. Well, welfare has been a little bit on my mind too, because this week we had, we recently just had that Prop 12 hearing, and one of the big things that came out of that, from my perspective and listening to the different witnesses speak and the questions that later followed, was we really had an opportunity to get out there and talk about how animal welfare is very important to us, and show tangible ways that, throwing arbitrary regulations on that aren't based on science and research can be very damaging to pigs, and also sometimes people. And so that we really need to be like continuing to find ways to measure animal welfare and to be able to have those numbers to show people, because it does matter. Those listening to those stories and those testimonies, I think was really impactful, and others said that was one of the big takeaways they got. So that maybe wasn't the main message that they were going there to share, but it was a very important message that they were able to share. And it also just speaks to that value of all of us in the industry continuing to tell our stories, to getting out in front of lawmakers, getting out in front of our, friends, families, people in our community, and talking to them about what we do and why animal welfare is so key. So great things, guys. I just want to say, thank you again for joining us for the State of the Pork Industry Report that's hosted by Farm Journals Pork and brought to you by Neogen. I appreciate the information and the insights that each of these experts provide on a quarterly basis to help the industry learn from shared stories and perspectives. And I just want to thank all of you guys for listening and joining us as well. We'd love to hear more from you about the topics that you'd like to see us discuss next time. So please stay connected with us at porkbusiness.com. Thanks again.